Hi, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in September. I read 5 books in September. I wish I could have read a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure the reason that I didn't read more is greatly due to how long it took me to finish the last book that I read, and we will get to it and we will get to why when we get there because I have a lot of thoughts. So let's just get into the books. So the first 2 books that I read in September were actually rereads. The first book that I read or reread is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of all time. This holds a really, really special place in my heart and always will. I reread this actually because prior to having reread it, I still hadn't seen the newest film adaptation that came out last year with Emma Watson and Saoirse Ronan, and I really wanted to see it, of course, but I just wanted the book as fresh in my mind as possible, and I actually really enjoyed the new film adaptation. I do think the timeline of the story within the film could have been done a little bit more like chronologically and not like in flashbacks, but that wasn't a big deal enough for me to like dislike the movie. I still really loved it. I mean, this is not a movie channel, this is a book channel, but you know, that's why I reread the book and I loved the movie, so it was beautiful. If you haven't read this, you should read it. I love it and I hope you do too. The next book that I reread in September was Emma by Jane Austen. I also reread this book for the same exact reason that I reread Little Women. Prior to the reread, I still hadn't seen the newest film adaptation that came out either at the very end of 2019 or the very beginning of this year. I'm not too sure, but I absolutely adore this book. It's just such a fun time. This was the first Jane Austen book that I read several years ago, and I usually recommend Emma as a really good starting place for Jane Austen's works. Like if you're just wanting to get into her novels, it's incredibly funny and just a fun time. It's just a good time. I also really enjoyed the latest film adaptation for it. I did see some discourse about the film and that a lot of people really didn't like it, but I'm not too sure why. If you know why, please let me know. I would love to know why. I mean, they did do some like weird shit with the ending, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but it wasn't enough to make me dislike the whole movie. Like, I don't know, if that's why people didn't like it, I didn't care enough about that. But if there's another reason why people didn't like the movie, like, I want to know. I would like to know. So if you know, let me know. The next book that I read in September is probably actually a new favorite of mine, and it's The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was phenomenal. It was just so beautiful. I fell in love with this book like halfway through, honestly. And then the ending just made me fall in love with it 100 times more. It's just, oh my gosh. I find trouble putting into words how beautiful this story is. This story follows a guy who checks out a book from a library, and the book is essentially filled with a bunch of short stories, and one of the short stories that he reads within the book is actually about himself, and so he then sets off to pretty much find out why he is in the book that he checked out at the library. It's just so beautiful. The world created in this story is just so magical and insane. The writing in this book is absolutely gorgeous. Now, there are a lot of book stuff like within this book. There's a lot of libraries, a lot of reading, there's a lot of books within the book, and typically I actually really don't like reading books about books or reading books where people are like reading or like going to the library. Like, I don't know why, I just don't really like that kind of inception, reading a book about a book. Like, I don't really like that too much, but I thought that the way that it was done in here was really tasteful, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but we're gonna roll with it anyway. This book is just filled with so many different like puzzle pieces, and then by the time you get to the end, all the pieces just like come together beautifully, and it's just insane. I was crying so much at the end of this book for like a good 30 minutes. I would like stop crying and then I would think about it again, and then the tears would flow. They would just flow down my face and they wouldn't stop for a while. I want to reread it so bad. It's just so beautiful. I just want to be in the story forever. I I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I really, really want to read The Night Circus. If it's anything like this book in regards to just how beautifully written it is and just how intricate the story and the world building and everything is, I really, really want to get to The Night Circus because I adore this book. So the next book that I read in September is actually one that I've been meaning to read for a while, and it's Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Now, I actually had seen the movie before reading this, and I actually wish that I hadn't seen the movie before. Once I got to like the twist, I was like, damn, I really wish I hadn't seen the movie because I already knew what happened. Like, I already knew like the big reveal of what's going on. However, I had seen the movie like when it came out, and I hadn't really seen it since then, so I actually didn't remember how it ended. And after reading it, I think I realized why. But if you don't know what the story is about, if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, this whole entire book is essentially just about a guy who comes home, his house is trashed, and his wife is missing. And, you know, she's gone. She's the girl that's gone. And they're trying to find the girl that's gone. Because she's a gone girl. She's gone. You know, that's really the entire plot. It gets wild. It gets fucked up. This book honestly fucked with my head so much. It really makes you question like what's right and wrong, and like it fucked with my mind like the entire time. And I didn't like the ending. Like, obviously I wish it had a more satisfying ending, but I feel like the ending made sense. It makes you realize at the end that no one's right. Everyone's wrong in this book. I don't want to say too much, obviously, to avoid spoilers. If you want your mind fucked, read this. I've also read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, and I thought it was okay. I actually enjoyed Gone Girl a lot more than Sharp Objects, but I really, really want to read her book Dark Places because I've heard that one is really good as well. I gave this 5 stars. So the last book that I read in September that took me way too long to read is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. Can you see that? I love that right there. I love that sticky mark. Oh, so nice. Anyways, this book took me way too long to read. This is a new vampire book that came out last year, and everybody was super excited about it and raving about it because vampires like making a comeback basically, which I don't really think vampires ever left, but that's just me. Right off the bat, let's get into what this book is about. This book is about a girl named Celine. She moves from Paris to New Orleans for a reason that you find out in the book, mysterious secret that Celine has. In New Orleans, a bunch of like mysterious murders start popping up, and obviously you don't know who's doing them, but they're very similar to vampire attacks. She meets these people who are like magical people. I mean, this is a vampire book. I gave this book 3 stars. I was a little bit tied between like 3 and like 3.5, but I was just like, you know what? We're gonna round down because I really didn't like the writing. The writing kind of drove me insane. I felt like it was a little bit too decorative, if that makes any sense. I mean, it's fine to be like decorative with your writing and like poetic with your writing, and that's fine, but I feel like you can definitely overdo it, and I feel like this was just getting to the point of overdoing it. It wasn't entirely overdone, but it was like basically there to the point where it was annoying me. And the biggest thing about it that I didn't like was, I don't know what they're called, but when you're reading and there's a sentence where it's like, but there's one thing she didn't know, colon, enter, he was a vampire. Some shit like that. And it's like all dramatic like that. The reveal of whatever they're talking about is like in another line. It has like its own line to like emphasize the point, like if it's supposed to be like a dramatic moment. And that's fine. Those are great and fun and whatever, but there was at least like 1 per page in this book, and they weren't even for things that were like that important. So I was like, why are there so many of these in here? It honestly, like having an abundance of those within this book kind of like diminished and took away from moments in the book that were actually dramatic and actually could have benefited from those moments in the writing. And I just thought that that in itself was really overdone, and that was a little bit annoying to read. But other than that, I did like the story. I was interested in the story and where it was going, and I did care to know what happened at the end, but then when I got to the end, I was confused as fuck. And I don't know if that's because I just like missed an entire portion of the book or something, or all my questions that I have are answered in the sequel. And halfway through the book, I was like, I don't want to read the fucking sequel. I don't care enough, but I'm gonna finish this one. But then when I finished this one, I was like, I kind of want to read the sequel. Is it a priority? No. But do I want to read it? Yeah, I do. I want to know what's going on. Because at the end, it alluded to like more than just what you think is going on. I don't want to like spoil it, obviously, but I don't know. I have questions and I want answers, so I might just read the sequel. So those were all the books that I read in September. If you've read any of these books, let me know. Let's talk about them. Also, let me know why people didn't like the Emma movie. I would love to know. Let's talk about that. Hopefully October is a better reading month. I don't know. This reading month wasn't that bad, but I just feel like I wish I read more, and I was a little disappointed of how long it took me to finish The Beautiful, just because I really felt like I was dragging my feet through the mud or something, like trying to finish it. Hopefully I don't have that experience in October with any books, but that's like wishful thinking, so we'll see what happens. That concludes today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time.